Welcome to the Carl Jackson Podcast. I am delighted and excited that you are with us today. Today, my special guest, Dalon Collins, formerly of Kirk Franklin and the Family. This is an interview that I was excited about, and let's just get right into it. Dalon Collins. Recorded this in my office. Welcome to the Carl Jackson Podcast. I am happy to have our guest today. Our guest goes by the name of Dalon Collins, and I'm going to tell you something right now. If you don't know who Dalon Collins is, then you're probably not in churchism, because he is the voice, the one and only voice of formerly of Kirk Franklin and the Family. And I'm hearing rumors that the Family might come back together, especially after this pandemic. So I'm sure they're going to really come up with some wonderful songs. But yeah, Dalon Collins was one of the voices for Kirk Franklin and the Family. And he's also one of the lead actors in my film that came out, I guess, a couple years ago, The Jesus Freak. Some of you know about the film, some of you do not. But he's one of the lead actors, did an incredible job. He also did the soundtrack. And get this, when he did the soundtrack, he hadn't put out an album really since Kirk Franklin and the Family. I mean, he put out a couple EPs, but he came out of the woodworks just for his boy to put this soundtrack together for me, and actually spent a lot of his own money to produce it, because we didn't really have a huge budget for the soundtrack. So he just said, you know what, let's do this. I tried to get the contract and put it together, and he's like, forget all that. This, you my brother. Let's make this work. You got the movie. I got the soundtrack. Let's do it. So without further ado, we got to get right into it for an hour or so, because we'll talk for 18, 19 hours if it's just me and him. So give a warm welcome to my brother, my friend, Mr. Dalon Collins.
What up? What up? What up, man?
What's up, my brother?
Man, I'm good, man. Good and grateful.
Man, I just want to say publicly, thank you, man, for what you did for the Jesus Freak soundtrack, as well as the movie. And I don't go into, at some point I'll write a book about what you really did for the movie, but I'm not going to say that yet, because I'm in the middle of trying to make good on some things, make things right. But you did such an incredible thing for the film and for the soundtrack. And I don't know what inspired you to help a brother out, but you did. And I just want to say publicly thank you, because a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And with a project like this, it's so big. It was such a big project because it has so many moving parts and so limited amount of money to do it with, that a lot of times people don't know what has to happen behind the closed doors.
Right.
To come together. And one of the things that you did was you allowed me the opportunity to be able to just breathe and focus on marketing the film, and focus on putting it out, and focus on making sure that this film was somewhat of a moderate success. So thank you, my brother.
Man, I'm grateful, man. I thought it was a great opportunity to be able to tell the story. That story was something that I felt like the world needed to see, the church needed to see,
right,
and hear. And I think we're living in the very thing that we basically adventured to do a couple of years ago. I mean, this pandemic thing is got a lot of people throughout the world on their knees, man.
A lot of people, and I've even gotten some. I just told you a few minutes ago, I had a mega church pastor who sent me an email stating how this movie is fit in today's pandemic. And so a lot of people are hurting. We're gonna go into some spiritual stuff, but let's go back a little bit. Let's go back. Let's go back. I want to talk about a little bit about your upbringing in gospel, a little bit about your father. I know he passed not too long ago, But tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about your background and how you got into Kirk Franklin and the family.
basically I was born in East Fort Worth, straight up in Eastwood, and I was born and raised in a Church of God in Christ family. My dad, man, he was Church of God in Christ deacon, Church of God in Christ, a part of finances concerning the church, and what handyman around the church because it was a big church. Especially when you're talking about the '70s, late '60s, '70s, when you have like a church like that was sitting on like I think 10 acres of land. You know what I'm saying? It was a pretty big church in the eyesights during that time. And so he was really busy all the time, really busy. He was a hardworking man. My mom was a hardworking mother. She worked and my dad worked and he was an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? He was working and then opening up businesses. He had a roofing business and I was a part of that. Barbecue businesses and I was a part of that. And along with my siblings, my brother and my sister. I got an older brother and I got a younger sister. And basically, I mean, I got a slew of family, extended family, and they are in the circle of, you know, singing in the church and playing music in the church and all that type of stuff. So I grew up in a well-rounded family.
So tell us a little bit about how you got in gospel singing, even before you got in Kirk Franklin family.
Well, I was actually uh, going to school in the early '90s in Northern California. I went to Sacramento City College. Later on, I was transferring to UC Davis to study classical musical vocalist. Um, I sang more classical in the late '80s, early '90s than I ever done in my life. High school, college. And then I started dibbling dabbling in the social life in Sacramento. And that's how I got involved with a local choir, Joe Mimes in the Sacramento Fellowship Choir. And that was actually,
I didn't know you had roots in Cali. Wow.
yeah, and that was actually my first national recorded because Malaco signed Joe Mimes. And that was my first national recording record nationwide.
I did
My
not,
Child, the title of it was My Child, You Can Depend on Me.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, man. And then
So
I came from there because I had a, uh, I had a partial scholarship, ran out of money, came back home, was defeated, depleted, and defeated. Uh, and basically back at my mom and dad's house and wondering what to do. And then this elderly lady at my church, she was actually over the music department. She was the one that actually got me involved with DFW Mass Choir. She said, I'm getting ready to go to a rehearsal and I want you to go with me. And then during that time, I was like, well, I'm not trying to hear being in the choir. And from there, DFW Mass, going to rehearsal, enjoying myself, hearing the music slamming, funky, you know what I'm saying, jazzy, you know what I'm saying, spiritual, gospelish, you know what I'm saying, churchy, the foot stomping, and then I started singing, and somebody said, "Man, I need you to hear him, hear him. You need to hear him. I need him to sing by himself." And so everybody at rehearsal, it was always a situation where they would pull somebody out at rehearsals. And so this particular day in West Fort Worth, at the Greater Strangers Rest, Roy West was the pastor. He basically was in there, but he was always in the office. We always would have choir. So the people from Dallas would come to Fort Worth. And then the people from Fort Worth would come to Dallas, you know what I'm saying? And they said, man, he needs to sing. And so they gave me an opportunity to sing a solo or sing lead. with that particular song. And from there, man, Kirk saw me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so many other leaders in that band and singers saw me, and that's how it went on. And then I sing back. I mean, I sing a lead on that record. You know, the second DFW Mass Choir. And then Kirk said, "Man, I'm doing this record with Trinity Temple, full gospel. I want you to be a part of that." And that's where Holy One came involved. And that was our first time as the world, hearing Kim Burrell. Kim Burrell, me, who else is on that record? Oh man, I can't think of his name, but he was hot, like really on to it. If you'll know him if I call out his name from Dallas.
It's either Arthur Dyer or Cornell.
Cornell Morrell. Okay, Cornell Morrell. So it's Cornell Morrell, Arthur Dyer. Yeah, Arthur Dyer was part of DFW too. And Trinity Temple, they did their thing, and you know, I was still signed. I was actually signed to my uncle's label. It's his way. Yeah. I was signed to my uncle's label as a solo act. And so here I am coming from Northern California, coming down here and getting into the gospel music scene here in Dallas, Fort Worth. It's almost like it was organic because it's not something that I planned. My plan was to do classical overtures and to do classical music. My plan wasn't to sing gospel music. And I think just that whole maturation, you know how people say, you know, your steps are ordered by God, and the scripture says that too. Well, actually, I was just like seeing myself outside of myself. If you understand what I'm saying, how God was ordering my steps, and I didn't even know that they were being ordered. If that's understandable, you know what I'm saying. And so from there, it just went from there. After that, Kirk was like, after rehearsal one night in Dallas, DFW Mass, "Hey man, dude, I'm getting ready to start this group, Kirk Franklin and the Family. I want you to be a part." I said, "I'll pray about it, man. I'll get back with you." I did. I said, "I'll pray about it. I'll get back with you." All right. And so probably about another couple of days or a week passed, and then the next rehearsal, I told him, "Yeah, I'll be a part." During that time, it was Ecclesia. The group was called Ecclesia.
They were called who?
Ecclesia.
The Family was much better.
You're funny. You're funny.
I still don't know what that word means and how to say it, pronounce it.
I remember the definition, but after we know the family.
So it wasn't going to be, so it wasn't Kirk Franklin Ecclesia, it was just Ecclesia.
It was just Ecclesia.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a spiritual name. It's in the Bible, but I
sure.
don't know. I forgot the definition. I forgot the definition of that. I know it means a sense of worship and praise.
And so why was it changed from that to Kirk Franklin and the Family?
Man, we was at a rehearsal. The family was at a rehearsal, and we was, you know, getting ready to. I think we had already recorded the record, shopping it around, getting some solid bites, and then they was like, what? So what would we call this? Are we gonna, you know? Kirk was like, I don't think I'm gonna keep the same name. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of new members. You know, so we possibly need to think of a name. And so, sorry about that bringing. But then, you know, I think it was a sister, Yolanda McDonald. I think she said, "Well, we're like a family." And that's where it came from. Actually, Yolanda McDonald, she's the one that says, you know, we're like brothers and sisters. So why don't we just call it Kirk Franklin and the Family?
Wow.
Everybody was like, "Oh, okay."
Wow.
Yeah, that you know, it rings. It comes right off the tongue. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's
so
cool.
So it sounds like you're saying Kirk Franklin wasn't even really a name. It was just all of you guys were just a group.
Yeah. At first we were just
Kirk was just a member of the group.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That goes back to your destiny thing. It was destined for Kirk to be Kirk.
It was destined for Kirk to be Kirk. It was destined for me to be for me to run out of money in Northern California. It was destined for me because, dude, when I tell you, I was young and all them beautiful women up there, I did not,
Don't remind me.
Doug, I did not want to leave Northern California. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I did not want to leave Northern California. So I was like, man, why I gotta leave? You know what I'm saying? But it was like, okay, where you gonna stay? I got some friends, right? But the friend's dad that was possibly I was gonna stay with, he was a World War II vet or a Vietnam vet. He wasn't too keen with people being around him. You know what I'm saying? I think it was more of that situation where a person dealing with PTSD or something like that. You know what I'm saying? He was more extremely inverted and always in his thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So it made it very uncomfortable, for me to even imply that I can go to ask, hey, can I, bunk here until I get a job and all this kind of stuff there. And so I was like, man, well, let me go back home.
Well, shout out to Milton Bigham, DFW, too. Because really, I don't know if people know this, but before Milton Bigham and DFW Mass, Dallas didn't really have an outlet for gospel artists to all come together and kind of workshop and work in woodshed. My mom actually got a song accepted in the choir. It was a song called Rooted and Grounded. And the choir learned it. And the day of the recording, they cut her song.
Are you serious?
Yes, true story. It was the song was called Rooted and Grounded in Love. And I remember she wrote the song. Milton Bigham loved it, but he said it didn't have a choir finesse to it. And so Carnell Morrell, it was Carnell and Kirk Franklin rearranged it for the choir.
Oh, wow.
The choir sang it, they learned it. In the night of the recording, the song was cut.
Wow.
DFW.
Wow.
That's on the first album, the very first album that they put out. The double album.
Serious?
Yeah, true story. Yeah.
Wow. We was always rehearsing it, right?
You guys rehearsed it. So what from my recollection, I was a kid when all this was going on, but I remember we would go to rehearsals like I think it was Mondays and then Thursdays or something like that.
That's right.
And so they would do one half of the songs, one rehearsal, then they would teach them the next set of songs at the second rehearsal. Mm-hmm. So every time each rehearsal would happen, you would kind of start learning this booklet, if you will, of songs that end up being about, I don't know, 15, maybe 16 songs.
I think it was like
might have been 20.
I think the first record we was learning several records.
It was about
songs.
It was about 20 songs, I think. From my recollection, it was about 20 songs. So you guys would learn these songs, and I think what had happened was my mom's song was probably the least favorite because she wasn't in the clique, if you will. So so they cut her song, and at the time I didn't understand it because she was so disappointed. But now looking at, I'm in the business, I understand how stuff works. It's like, okay, that's what happened. They just cut it because she wasn't in the clique. But still, shout out to Milton Bigham and DFW because that really was the springboard for everybody that we know, from Spud C. Wright to Kirk Franklin to
Bobby Sparks,
filmmaking, Bobby Sparks.
Dude, you got background singers that sing with Kanye West. Right now.
God's Property was birthed out of DFW.
You got the whole springboards of different genres of gospel coming from DFW. You know what I'm saying? Because you had jazz, you had, you know what I'm saying, you got rock, you got so much stuff coming out of, you got funk coming out of DFW Mass Choir. You know, it's a lot of people got inspired for Milton, uh, you know, and who was the pastor? Brother
He could sing. That pastor could
Pastor
sing.
Armored Brown.
Armour Brown. That
Yeah,
brother was light skinned and was the original gospel Drake.
yeah, Doc.
Because
'Cause
he
he
could
definitely,
sing, he was
Doc,
crooning
yeah, because he was Doc.
and
He
had the
was
ladies.
Doc. He was killing Doc. He
He
was
was
killing.
killing the ladies.
Come on, man, come on.
No,
You killing me.
I'm being funny right now.
It's funny.
But no, I mean I'm just saying he was like the good looking pastor
He was
and
a
he could
good looking
sing. You know
pastor,
what I
and he
mean?
could sing, and he could sing. You know what I'm saying? And so that's, I mean, just being to be a part of that, man. It was like, dude, it was so fun because it was so. You know how you in something, but you don't know the politics that goes behind the scenes of it, and you know it's probably with some politics going on, but you just happy just to be in creative mode.
Let me
You
tell
know what
you
I'm
something.
saying?
Let me tell you how deep that is. I don't know if you remember this, but during rehearsals, there was a lot of, as a kid, I just remember a lot of politics was going on with the different writers and who was doing what. And they used to dog Kirk.
Are you
They used
serious?
to dog him in the politics. I remember this because I remember some of the stuff that I was seeing. And I'm bringing that up to say I was a fly on the wall because I wasn't in the choir. My sister was and my mom was, but I just would go just to hang
Dude,
out.
your sister too?
My sister was in the choir when y'all recorded. She's back. She's like 4 rows up when you lead your song.
Are you
I'm
serious?
dead serious. She sent me the video the other day of her.
What you gotta do is you gonna have to give me a picture of your mom and your sister. Because I possibly knew them way before I truly knew you.
You might have. But anyway, I just remember the thought of how Kirk they used to dog him, and the minute he blew up, it was like the only thing I could think about was what are those guys thinking when they were dogging him? I mean, when he went platinum, I was like, oh my god! I was like, what are they thinking? Oh
Well,
my god! You
the
know,
thing about it is determination, uh, opportunistic mentality when it comes to the industry. Um, it comes to play. It comes to play. And if you're not uber arrogant, opportunities can come your way. There will be doors that will open for you if you are uh, always looking for them to be open. And that's what Kirk was. Kirk was optimistic, and he was always looking for doors to open up, and he would do whatever he needed to do in order to always show his best foot. When he went to perform, he always gave it he always went to the moon. You know what I'm saying? Whenever he performed. And so,
oh, nobody can touch Kirk with a show.
yeah,
With
you
a
know what I'm saying?
show,
Because
his show.
because he would study a particular scripture so it could fit the narrative of a particular portion of a song. You know what I'm saying? See, that's the kind of stuff that a lot of folks don't know. That how I saw his maturation at a young age.
And didn't
You know
you
what I'm
tell?
saying?
And didn't you tell me that when the reason why we sing wasn't even y'all first single? That wasn't even
Oh,
supposed
that
to be
wasn't
the
gonna
first
be.
single.
It wasn't gonna be the first single. I think what's the name is gonna be singing. I think what is that song? The David Mann song. He's Able. He's Able was gonna be. Matter of fact, they did release He's Able first. It hit and it was on the charts. but it didn't do what While We Sing did, because during that time, I think Chicago broke that record because there were inward, uh, I think another cop killing an innocent black man, and the city was livid. You know what I'm saying? And I think FM radio played the song as they exit 12 o'clock a.m. And that's how that song.
You're kidding me. So that
See,
explains why. That explains why it took 2 years before the record went platinum, because
you're absolutely right.
it was pretty much a dead record.
You're absolutely right.
It was over.
And that and basically that record being played on FM radio, and from that day on, it was one of the most requested records in Chicago radio history. And they played it, and they played it, and they played it, and they played it, and then Indianapolis played it, played it, played it, played it, and then so on and so on. New York, Philadelphia, Detroit, Michigan. You know what I'm saying? Then it went down. Then it was being played here. Then it got back to Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Georgia was giving it much love. Georgia was giving He's Able love like crazy. And then While We Sing hit, man, when it hit Chicago, it hit all FM hip hop radio stations, or during that time R&B stations throughout the country within a 2-week span.
Oh, I remember.
Every radio station, K104, everybody was playing it.
I remember it because I was dating this white chick at the time, and I walked in her house. She had all this country music. I was living in Dallas at the time. She had all this country music, and then in her CD collection was Kirk Franklin and the Family. And I looked at her and I was like, what? And she's like, I just like the song. It's so cool. I love it.
That's what's so crazy about that. That's what, and the thing about it is, and I'll take the credit for this. I told Kirk.
I was just getting ready to get into that. You were the person that picked the single, weren't you?
Dude, I told Kirk and I told Vicky McLaughlin, listen, that record, there's something about that record. And there's something about Bustin' Giovanni, not Bustin' Giovanni. I think it was not Bustin' Giovanni. Tri-City Singers, Donald Lawrence, Kevin Bond. It was something about Kevin Bond and how he mixed that record, and how it began and how it ended, that left a lasting impression on you in your head, to where you was like singing the melody after it was over with. You know what I'm saying? And when I heard the whole record from sternum to stem, I told him, I don't care what you say, Kirk, because Kirk was like, you know what I'm saying? I was actually doing that song as a tribute to the late great Thomas Whitfield. And he said, I didn't plan on it to be nothing major, you know what I'm saying? Because Thomas spoke his narratives on his records. And that's why he did that song, was a tribute to his favorite artist, Thomas Whitfield.
Thomas Whitfield, for those of you that don't know who he is, to me, if anybody should do a movie, it should be on the two people, The Mighty Clouds of Joy, with three people, The Mighty Clouds of Joy, Andre Crouch, and without question, Thomas Whitfield. Thomas Whitfield, to me, I actually met him as a kid. And long story, I won't get into that. It was an amazing experience. But what people don't understand about Thomas Whitfield was he really was the first praise and worship leader for gospel music. He was the one that transitioned it from contemporary to what we know today as praise and worship. Nobody gives him credit, but Thomas really is the reason why church has the sound that it has the last, I'd say, really 40 years.
Because I'm going to tell you something, that whole Kirk Franklin Family record was inspired by Thomas Whitfield.
It's Thomas Whitfield. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole identity was Thomas, how he even arranged his music. That record, the arrangement of those songs was a kind of like a flair of Thomas Whitfield. I mean, I want some funk, but I want that classy sound, piano sound of Thomas Whitfield.
Thomas was a beast, guys.
Oh no, he was stupid, because the thing about it is he was truly a maestro. He would take a composition and he would make it his own, and then he would write you a record that the lyrical content would last in the back of your mind even after you finished going to church or going to see a concert or going to a musical. His lyrical content was more in your face and valuable than his music, but his music was so intertwined with classical and jazz.
He was bad.
He would play classical chords.
Yeah, his stuff was bad, Doc.
You know what I'm saying? He would play classical chords in a jazz gospelish way. He was a unique artist.
If you've ever heard the Hold Me album, the whole record, Hold Me,
it's stupid.
That record, to me, that album should be in
multi-platinum.
It should be in the museum.
Gospel Music Hall of Fame.
It should be in the museum. No, even beyond that, it should be like in the Museum of Arts and Science Music. Because if you've ever studied, like, that's the record. It only has maybe 8 songs on the whole record, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like Thriller Michael Jackson. It's like you listen to it and you go, how is it that I can hear this record and still learn stuff?
You remember that? You remember the up-tempo record he had when he had the drum machine and the clapping.
Man,
you remember that thing? You know what I'm saying? He would do that with a drum machine, clapping, clapping loops, and then he would use classical chording, piano chording, with churchy theming.
If anything,
it's hard to explain.
If anything proves that what you're saying is true, I would tell my audience, listen to Hold Me by Thomas Whitfield and listen to I Will See You in the Morning.
I Will See You in the Morning, and just in case you've forgotten my name.
I Will See You in the Morning musically is like,
yes.
Like, yes. The only other persons that had that flair to me, now we get into another whole subject, but anyway, the only person that had that flair in music to me was Edwin and Daniel Hawkins. They had
exactly.
But they had but it was more of a Northern California, West Coast, almost, I would call it worldly gospel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would call.
But
yeah,
Thomas,
I actually called the Hawkins family. I actually call their music more of a. I call it the awakening of sound and gospel. Meaning, if they was hippies, you know what I'm saying? They placed their mark of what they heard on the streets during the Flower Child era in the gospel arena. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I loved about the Hawkins. You know what I'm saying? But Thomas Whitfield, man.
But Thomas. Back to Thomas. Thomas.
Because we can. Think about it is we can have a conversation all day long about different subjects, but when it comes to the original, I think we, as musicians or younger musicians, I think we need to listen. I think we need to go back and we need to listen to those records.
So tell me, while we're talking about it, tell me a couple of your favorite artists. Who are your top 3 gospel artists, if you had to like be stuck on an island and you only could bring 3 collections, it don't have to be 3 records, but just 3 sets of collections, what would these 3 artists be?
James Moore, Andre Crouch, and the whole Detroit sound. It's hard for me to say. I can't, because you got to call out. I got to call out
The
Commission.
Winans,
I have to call out the
Thomas
Winans,
Whitfield, the Clark sisters.
I got to call them all out there.
Right,
I mean,
right.
That whole,
basically just Detroit.
Have you ever looked at a certain city and you was like, that's the Ivory City. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I foresaw Detroit growing up. I was like, man, if there's any place I need to get to when I get old enough, I need to get to Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Because all of the great music that came out of there.
I break it down like this. If I had to break it down, I would say the West Coast sound came from Andre Crouch.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit sound, I'm sorry, it's my opinion, comes from Thomas Whitfield. That's right. That's my opinion.
And I bet you
y'all can kill me, but
I bet you anything. I bet you a lot of folks. But I bet you anything. A lot of folks will say Thomas Whitfield. I think Thomas Whitfield, if he was still living on this earth, he would probably say Rance Allen.
And then I was getting ready to say, and then Rance Allen would just be United States.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
You don't put Rance Allen in no category.
Because Rance Allen was inspiring. Rance Allen was inspiring so much so that he had 3 pop crossover records, meaning it crossover in the R&B world, the gospel world, solid in the gospel world, solid in the R&B world, and then it crossed over in the pop world.
What people don't know is Rance Allen actually was more known in the pop and R&B world than he was gospel, because gospel wouldn't play his music. They
That's right.
They didn't start playing They didn't start playing Rance Allen until the late '80s.
That's right.
And then that was 15 years of him being an R&B gospel artist.
That's right. That's right. Now, it's just so unique that we're living in a time, in my opinion, that we're dealing with more likes than we are richness of sound. Richness of sound made me be creative. Richness of sound made me want to reach where I thought was the unreachable. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? And I feel like we lost that in some capacity or so. I really do. Which is, we need to get back to it, man.
So what do you think about this Clash of the Titans? John P. Key and Hezekiah Walker going to do their versus. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, if it can continuously put gospel music on the foreground or the market, because the industry is the industry, whether it be gospel, whether it be CCM, whether it be pop, soul, rhythm and blues, R&B, jazz. The industry is the industry. And right now, because of this pandemic, it kind of slowed down the progress of gospel music. So whatever, all hands on deck. That's it, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So basically, all bets off.
You know what I'm saying? All hands on deck. And so whatever we have to do in order to let people know about this great music, because it's great music. You know what I'm saying?
I would want to see one between Andre Crouch and Kirk Franklin. That's the one I want to see. Now, Sandra Crouch would have to do that, and then Andre would have to, and then for Andre, and then Kirk would have to be Kirk. But I'm gonna tell you right now, hands down, no disrespect, it would just be all in fun. But they all got bars.
Yeah, you best
They
believe.
got bars. Kirk got bars.
Yeah, he got bars,
And
but
so does Andre.
but Andre Crouch is, and even Kirk will tell you, Andre Crouch is the quintessential.
My
I
money's
mean,
on Andre.
yeah, my money and Kirk's money would be on Andre Crouch. I mean,
Andre was just, and
it
people don't know this, but I actually met you
that's right.
through Andre
Yeah,
Crouch.
I was doing the project. I was doing the Journey project, and I did. The crazy thing is, I didn't. Mano Haynes, he was like, "Man, I'm trying to assimilate some great voices, and I want you to be a part of this, project." And I was like, cool. And he was like, "Well, I'm gonna give you this for a whole week. I want you to come to, I think it was
It was
what city was it?
Pasadena.
It was
Pasadena.
Pasadena, California." He said, I'm gonna get you a room in Pasadena, and I want you to be here for a whole week, and you're gonna be with some other great singers, and Andre's gonna be there every day, and we're gonna be creating sometimes on the scene, right on the spot, and so on and so on and so on. So I was like, cool, let's go, let's make it happen. He flew me down there, and it was some great singers. I'm talking about great singers.
Yeah, I've got some of it on video that Sandra Crouch doesn't know about, but
Are you serious?
she'll be thanking me later. Well, what it was is she was afraid people were gonna post it, so she didn't want nobody filming it. But I'm a filmmaker. Come on now, it's my
Yeah,
job to get this kind of stuff.
yeah.
So
Because
I got
that
some of it.
was
I've never
because that was his
released it.
because that was because that was his last. That was
I'm
his
so
last.
glad I got it. Yeah. Well, I was there. He called me one night out of the clear blue, says, Carl, I need you to come to the studio. I want you to hear my new album. And I was like, okay. I said, well, what time? He says, can you be here in an hour? I was like, an
That
hour?
was quick, wasn't it? He was like, I ain't got time for that. He was
I was
I
like,
gotta
an
get
hour? He says, can you make it? And I was like, yeah, I'll come. And so I came down to hear the album because he wanted me to just kind of watch him in as he worked, because we were getting ready to do a movie of his life. We were getting ready to write the script, actually.
Are you serious?
That's why I was there.
Wow,
Yeah,
that was
that's why I
gonna
was
be
there.
dope, man. That would have been talk about life-changing events. You get Andre Crouch docu pick.
Yeah, that movie, I don't think is meant to happen, at least with me, because I would not want to do the movie right now. I would want to do it at all because he's not here.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he was telling me was just classic gold stuff. Oh my God. And my movie just was going to be on another level.
Are
So
you serious?
anything that would be done now would just be kind of autobiography-eyed, if you will. And I just don't want I don't want to do that. I wanted to do a real motion picture on Andre Crouch. Like $40-50 million budget, real soundtrack, like a real thing, because the stuff he was telling me was so just grand, just how he produced the records and how he got into the game. And it was just some stuff I won't even ever tell because he's told me not to talk about it, but it's just would have been so much great richness to the movie that anybody that does it is just looking for a buck. And I don't want to do him like that. So I would rather, what I would like to see happen is that at some point, maybe when I'm dead and gone, somebody really do extensive research and do a film. When we come back, more from Dalon Collins and my interview that I had with him in my office. Incredible.
Original movies, original series, original concerts, and more. CJC, one network, sharing the world.
What are you looking for? Hope. Guidance. spiritual enlightenment. What are you looking for? Family, peace, financial security, love, time. To the great city of Los Angeles, we want to welcome you to programming that will help lead you to the light. 24 hours a day. Original movies, original series, music, and more. CJC. Always positive. Now, this is a little bit controversy, and I know there's certain things you can't talk about because of legal reasons. But for a minute there, after the second album, What You're Looking For, came out, there was this big press release that you were about to come out with this album. And I remember the buzz was this record was going to be bigger than Kirk Franklin and the Family. Kirk Franklin and the Family was a huge record. But your voice, people are starting to know who you were. And they were like, when is he getting ready to put out this solo record? And they kept saying it's coming out, it's coming out. I think I heard Vicky Mack talk about it coming out. And
yeah,
BB Winans was going to produce a couple songs. I know y'all heard. And
which was wonderful.
And I heard a lot of this stuff. And then all of a sudden it was like months, then a year, then 2 years, and then the record never came out.
3 years, 5, 15.
And everybody that I can think of was like, when Dalon hits, the buzz was when Dalon drops, this record is going platinum first day because too many people know the voice. That was the talk. So what happened?
I signed a deal with Gospel Centric, and it was more so. It was a deal basically based upon a friendship more than me being savvy as business. I was just happy to be a part, bottom line. And they signed me first, and then they signed Tam, and then they signed 4 other singers in the group. And then they 280'd me when it comes to contracts to where I was signed as an artist, I was signed as a writer, I was signed as a guest, meaning I couldn't go out and sing on anybody else's projects. And also I was signed as a group member. So they had me 4 ways. And but I was happy to be a part. You know what I'm saying? Happy to be a part and just waiting on a project. So my lawyer pressed enough to where they got some production done. Flew to Chicago to work with Percy Beatty. I had Fred Hammond produced records on that. Oh my man, who do you love, girl? I'm Mark of what I never do. Are you sure? I can't think of his name right now off of my head. But I had several key producers that actually did records on this project.
I thought Rodney Jerkins produced "Who Do You Love," the Wine and Face 2 record. You talking about?
I'm talking about
Bernard White.
Bernard Wright.
Oh wow!
Way back in the day.
Bernard Wright.
Bernard
Okay.
Wright was producing some records on this record. Yeah. And so, I went to all those places thinking that the records that we done was sustainable enough. And first of all, they said when I went, these records are approved. When I came back, they delivered, whether it be Percy or whether it be Fred. We don't like these records. It was approved going, me flying, but when I got back, we don't like these records. And so I began to, get very, very frustrated. And I was always a quiet person, never really like shook the boat or nothing like that. But once I started seeing another year go by and another year go by and another year go by, then it began to start weighing heavy on me, And when you have a conversation and you say, and you just pour out your heart and say, hey, I just want to be out of my deal. You know what I'm saying? And then you're like, well, baby, I'm not going to let you out your deal. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to happen. Then I knew then I was like, okay, there's no hope concerning this. I have no other recourse in order to get out of my deal. I'm going to have to take legal action. And that's what I tried to do.
So let me ask you this. I'm trying to be diplomatic about it. So why do you feel that they sat on the record? Why do you think? Because it's deeper than just we don't like the records. If you don't like a record, you can just go back and do new records.
Or find other producers or whatever.
Right.
You know
so what do you
I think it had everything to do with the demographics of the industry at that time. The whole 90s, mid-90s, late 90s, New Jack Swing era was really coming to fruition. Puffy was on the radio with his artists. There was a lot of labels wanting to sign individuals from the group. And they basically signed, in my opinion, honest opinion, they signed me and other artists / group members for that reason, just to basically hold them.
Right, because they didn't want to have anything out there that was kind of going to probably compete with whatever they were working on as well. They
That's
probably wanted to make sure that their side of whatever business they were doing was not going to interfere with their big bread and butter, I'm assuming.
That's right. And I mean, now hindsight is always 20/20. I'm a businessman now, and so I think business thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And so my mindset now is, oh, that was smart. You know what I'm saying?
It's just business. It's just business.
My mindset now is, man, that was smart. But me being a budding young artist, I was an artist way before Kirk Franklin and the Family, and not to have the opportunity to be able to do so. At that moment, the immaturity level in which I was thriving in at that point came to full blast. You know what I'm saying? I was always a sound person, even being young. But as far as, taking it personal, I took that personal, because these are the same people that you basically,
ate dinner with, and got on planes together and all that kind of stuff.
And these are people that you feel probably should have spoken up and
Yeah,
said, "Hey, this is my brother. Let's
yeah.
let's try to figure out a way to rectify this because he's my boy from back in the day, Texas, and then
Yeah.
I'm a star, so let me use my weight a little bit
But
and help my friend."
but the thing about it is that's the whole misconception. This was never an attack. It was never an attack on Kirk Franklin. It was never an attack on Kirk Franklin. You know what I'm saying? It was always addressed to gospel centric.
But I'm saying some people saw it that way. They did
yeah,
think
some people saw it like that.
Some people said they
saw it
thought
that
Kirk
way.
Franklin should have stepped in and said something.
And for the most part, you could say that. You can make that argument to be solid. You know what I'm saying? But for me, at that time, it really had nothing to do with Kirk. It had everything to do with the relationship that I had with Vicky McLaughlin. You know what I'm saying? And me thinking, because it wasn't just one meeting with Vicky Mac, 2 meetings with, a luncheon with Vicky Mac. It was several conversations on the phone and interacting, and you know what I'm saying, what do you think about this artist here? And man, Vicky, if you like this, I heard this guy here, you really need to sign him. You know what I'm saying? And then 6-7 months later, this artist is on gospel centric. You know what I'm saying? I was acting as liaison, and I was acting as I thought I had someone to kind of like mentor in the industry, on her end. And then I was always like a button ear. Because I was the one that told them While We Sing should be the single. And there's all glory to God. It had everything to do with, at that particular time, I had an ear, and I knew, okay, what I felt was a hit and what I didn't think, was not possibly the first single.
And you told Kirk that record was going to skyrocket, take him to the next level. Didn't you tell him that?
Yeah. I told him at his apartment in West Fort Worth. I said, man, you put this record out here, I said, your life is never going to be the same again. I said, that record is going to go crossover and it's going to go platinum. That's what I told him.
That's crazy. Even to this day, if you think about it, when you play the song.
That's my man that had a Fiera. What's the little cars, the little sports cars? You know what I'm saying? I said, man, your life is going to change forever. And even if you hear that record, even tonight, even today, it still has that haunting.
That's what
theme.
I was just getting ready to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it still
that song to this day still plays as if, like, you could. It's not even a classic. It feels like it was done yesterday. Like it still has that same oomph to it. It probably means more today than it did then because of this pandemic.
And the crazy thing is, it was almost like a nursery rhyme. The way it was written, it was not, you know what I'm saying? It was not nothing that was like,
someone ask a question. Why do I sing?
You know what I'm saying?
Our hands to Jesus.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when you saw it, when you heard it, it still pierced your heart like you was hearing a melodious, slow melody. You know what I'm saying? With chord progressions in the 7th and 8th degree to where you were like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like you sit in the movie soundtrack, a movie's being played and you hearing a specific song. You know what I'm saying? When I heard the soundtrack for Fan and Terrence Trent D'Arby's Sweet Surrender, I was in the movie theater and I literally sat up in the chair because I was like, this is a life-changing song. I just heard something I never thought I would hear. That's the same thing I heard when it came to Kirk Franklin's While We Sing.
That's what I felt when I heard the whole album by Sting, 10 Summoner's Tale.
Exactly. Me
that
too.
record is, that thing must be demonic because it's too good.
Dude, what I tell you, that record
That record is crazy.
That record is in my phone right now.
10 Summoners Tell. I've never heard an album where every song is
a hit.
Point.
And that's what the great thing about being a part of something that was not planned, something that was not we're not planning to make hits. That's the thing about Kirk Franklin and the family. We didn't plan to make hits. We just love to sing praises to God. If we had an opportunity to be in the music industry, we was just excited. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We was just excited. And because of that, I feel like that's how God elevates you, is because you have no preconceived notions when it comes to what area you walking into. You just happy to be a part. I think that's how the universe come to you, is when you just basically just like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind and I'm just gonna go for it. And you had a body of people, so that synergy was coming towards us because it was a body of people that had that same mindset.
On one accord, right?
On one accord.
Yeah. So let me ask you this as we wrap this up. I want to ask you about the Jesus Freak movie. What made you want to do the film with me? And what is your plans in the future? Because I feel like it's time for us to get back you in front of the camera and me in front and behind the camera. So what brought you to Jesus Freak? What made you want to do it, I should say? Because you hadn't really did anything since
for a good minute.
That time that we're talking about.
I
gospel centric.
I did a couple of records, you know what I'm saying? Appeared on different people's projects and
yeah, but you gave me a whole record, so I'm taking credit for it.
Yeah, you best believe. I think it has a lot to do with just reading the script. When I read the script, I was like, this has to be heard and seen. It can't be, you can't. I'm an out of the box type of person. You know what I'm saying? And so for me to read the script, and I felt like the words was jumping off the page. And if it pierced me, my mindset was like, if it pierced me, then I know it's gonna touch somebody else's life. And so I was like, I gotta be a part of this. In some kind of way, I gotta be a part of this. And because I did the play, The Greatest Doubt, you was able to see my acting prowess.
And I was just gonna say, he was good, guys. If you haven't seen the play, I don't know if it's available on video yet, but
it's on video.
It's on video somewhere.
You can go to what is it? Oh man, what is that? Bishop. Oh Jesus.
Tony Evans.
Tony Evans. You can go to Bishop Tony Evans' website, and I think they have all of their plays. They'll have all of their plays in which they do. And
well, you guys should check out what he did in that play. It was amazing. Matter of fact, that play was the reason why I was like, yeah, he's got to do this movie. You know.
Yeah, man, and you know, the crazy thing is, I never thought I was going to be acting in anything, but I was doing off-Broadway plays ever since the success of Kirk Franklin and the Family. You know what I'm saying? And I had one line in it was a play that we did. I just can't think of the people's name right now, but it was a play that we did, and I had just one line, and I was a part of a choir. And because of that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I am okay with this, you know? And I just, after Kirk Franklin and the Family dismantled, people was calling me. Michael Matthews was calling me, and other playwrights was calling me, and I just went out there and took a shot and did it. And from there, it's just like I really got the love of it. I was like, man, I like this acting thing.
And we're talking right now. You and I have been talking off and on about you doing a sitcom. We're trying to put together. We ain't gonna give the premise. We're not gonna get a premise.
It would be good. It would be good if we can work that and do that, man. Because I think people need to smile, and people need to smile with the mindset of the truth.
Right.
Do you hear what I said?
Absolutely.
People need to smile with the direction and the writing of the truth. And I feel like that's another reason why I hooked up with you, because I felt like the writings and the direction you was going was the truth. You was very sincere about, I gotta get this particular story out, because this particular story, I feel like the church needs to embark on this, dissect it, eat it. You know what I'm saying? Let the bad taste really hit your taste buds, but also at the end, it'll be sweet.
What I see now, what's happening now, I saw happening 4 or 5 years ago. I knew this day was coming. Wow. Where churches were going to be in this kind of in a place of suspension because, the powers that be, God, was fed up. He just got tired. Mm-hmm. And I saw that then, and that's really where the film was birthed out of. It was birthed out of me just getting tired of seeing how arrogant these people were that are considered leaders and bishops and pastors. And it looked like a big circus to me. And so now, cut to 2020, and it's like the movie has come to life on a level that I couldn't even try to. I don't have the power or the intelligence to make it fit today's time now.
Well, the crazy thing about it is that you want to say that this pandemic is organic. You want to say that this pandemic is something that just naturally just came about. But you also have to say, what if God allowed man to do stuff crooked that caused this calamity hit the earth? You know what I'm saying? Either way it go, God is still in control. He still, in his infinite wisdom, allowed certain things to happen. And I hate the fact of hearing stories of family members, pastor and his son, oldest son or grown son, and the elect lady, she basically still alive, but she had to bury her son and her husband, and she had to sit in the car, not have a church service, right? Sit in the car at the graveyard and watch them put the bodies in the grave. You know what I'm saying? We're living in overwhelming, changing times. We will never be the same. You know what I'm saying? We will never be the same. And the Jesus Freak is something to where you would be like, okay, I might need to go and Rolodex back to wherever I can find this movie and watch this, because it has nothing to do with what we see now, the tangibles, the plague and all that kind of stuff. It's not that type of movie, but it's one of those self-check movies. And that's the reason why I love the movie, is because it was a self-check. I've always told people this. I might be stone wrong, but I will never lie on truths. I might be a sinner. I might be the worst sinner there known to man. But when it comes to righteousness, I will fight for righteousness. And that's the type of person I am. Whatever's truth is truth. whatever's righteous is righteous. And I feel like this story needed to be heard and seen, because guess what? Yes, if you look at the Jesus freak, you're not going to be comfortable. There are certain portions of it, yeah, you'll be comfortable. And certain portions that you'll laugh. But for the most part, once you leave out of that theater, or once you leave off the screen watching this on TV or whatever, or your laptop or your phone or what have you, you're gonna get a little sting. And the sting, it's almost gonna be like a mirror right in front of you, and it's gonna be looking straight back at you.
The word I heard describing this movie was perfectly the perfect sentiment to me. And I'm going to read it to you. He said, I had one text or one email said, if I can find it, because it's so powerful to what you're saying. He says, just watch Jesus Freak, heavy movie, powerful story.
Yeah.
That's that's the best way to describe it.
Because guess what? It's not going to be a light, fluffy salad. It's going to be a heavy steak. You know what I'm saying?
And you're gonna have to let it digest.
And you're gonna let it digest. And you know what I'm saying? And nobody wants to feel the uncomfortableness of being overly fed. Every time you overeat, you feel horrible. Right? Well, this is a smorgasbord of self-analyzation and check. Because every character that was in that movie, at one point or another, they had to look at themselves and see themselves for who they truly were.
I had somebody tell me there's a scene where Tim, who was one of the characters, said that when he was walking through the casino scene, she said that the look of distress on his face was so powerful to her. She said, because she said you could see clearly he's somebody else, even though when he's with his church friends,
wow,
he had the right. And I was like, you picked up on that? She's like, oh yeah. I was like, you really did watch the movie. because I purposely wanted that to feel that. I wanted to feel when I gave him the direction. Because it was a really small crew of us, and I got permission to shoot in the casino for probably 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get that shot out. And it was like, I said, you've got to be in that moment. And what he did was so powerful, because I thought he just totally nailed it when I watched the footage, but I wasn't sure if it was going to translate, because sometimes something that looks good on the screen won't translate. So it was so wonderful to hear that the stuff was translating, especially that particular scene, because that was a little iffy for me. We didn't know if that was going to work. And for them to tell me, yes, his face said everything. He was in distress because he shouldn't be this person, but he can't help it.
Very gratifying. It's very gratifying to not so much to get the praises, but for you to know that you worked hard in doing so.
Or that the story was translated properly.
Yes.
You want to tell a story that people can connect to more than you want them to look at your work. The work could be crap, but if you got the story,
that's right.
Then
that's right.
I did my job.
That's right. That's right. And I felt like that is what I saw the first premiere. I was like, okay. First of all, I felt like it was a throwback movie, which I thought was cool. I thought it was a throwback movie past our era, going to, even 40s, 50s, and 60s. You know what I'm saying? And I love that. I love that savant visual. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
A little film noir, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I felt like it was. I
even put a little black and white in there.
Yeah, I felt like it was nouveau. I really thought it was nouveau. You know what I'm saying? And I just like, man, this is dope, you know. And I was hoping, I was praying, I was wishing, oh my God, we need critical acclaim. I want this to be seen on every screen in the world because I know that you had some people just like me that I was a part of that project that had that same mindset of this story has to be heard. Like I said, we might not be perfect, but we know that God works in gifts, good gifts, and he works in judgment. And a lot of times his judgment is actually the thing that's going to save us. That movie, I felt like, was a smackdown judgment of the church. I feel like now, if you really want to go spiritual, I feel like everything that we're seeing now, how I got to put on a mask before I get ready to leave. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a straight indictment to us, the church, for what we haven't done. Because we've been so busy trying to get in the house, make the next $100 million, mega church, drive a Benz, and my wife drives another colored Benz, Ferrari, and this and that. And we lost sight of the quintessentials of the gospel. The gospel is supposed to bring good tidings. The gospel is supposed to enlighten, but the gospel also is supposed to teach and chastise. That's what the gospel is supposed to do. Because he said his yoke is easy and his burdens are light. Take my yoke upon me and learn of me. Because guess what? I much rather get whooped by my daddy than for me to go on the streets and get whooped by a stranger. And that's what God is basically saying. You much rather get chastised by me than by the world. Now, because God said, I created earth and it was good. And he said, go and possess. It is good. Go do it. I believe man taking advantage of the earth and taking all its natural resources and just crapping on it. I believe God said, okay, we finna do a stopwatch. Click. We're going to research this thing. We're going to make things be isolated for the time being. And we're going to have some casualties. Because the only way I'm going to get your attention is that you have some calamities that surround you. I hate to hear that people are dying from this disease or from this virus. I hate to hear this. But we're living in the last days. And I feel like I'm in the wilderness crying out. Such as I know a lot of folks feel like they're in the wilderness crying out and saying, guess what? Guys, we ain't good. We ain't good. We better get this stuff right. Because we think we see a plague now, or we see a virus now, what we might see next year.
Well, at this rate, at this point, I think that until the church get their stuff together, what you're going to start seeing is going to be far worse than what happened this year.
I really believe that. I really believe that.
So I think this is like when I cringe when I see that a lot of people, not calling names, but more so pastors than singers, but singers are doing it too. But I cringe when they're sitting on their laptops and still asking for money. I cringe, and I'm gonna tell you why. And again, I know you have to go in a few, but because you got to do that thing. But I cringe because you're not getting it. You're not getting it.
Yeah.
You're not getting it. Now is the time to get on your cameras and tell everybody, stop listening to me. Get on your knees and pray. This is the point we're at. And I'm afraid. Oh, I'm afraid that if they don't start saying that what could have been prevented will not be prevented. And that's why I think this movie is so timely, because I feel like if people could just get it and not do business as usual. And we kind of hit on it the other day. I mean, not today, other day, but today when we were talking about that singer that did the video, and we were saying how this person looks like they've been presented with the do this or else, you know, kind of like take the mark or survive on your own, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be approached with that. And and this to me is kind of like the final curtain call before the real judgment could potentially happen. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one of those people that's like, God is the devil and he wants to destroy the world and all this. I'm not one of those people. But I am one of those people that believe in karma. I am one of those people that believe that you keep sowing seeds a certain way, you're going to reap a harvest from those seeds.
That's true.
We're reaping a harvest. And unless we go ahead. What you gonna say? Go ahead. What you gonna say?
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just agreeing with what you're saying, because we as Americans, we're arrogant. We self-indulging. You know what I'm saying? I was telling somebody the other day, never in the history of my existence have I ever seen a whole world shut down. When something like that happens, we can go 9/11. It didn't shut down. You can go, you know what I'm saying? You go World War II. It didn't shut down. You can go Great Depression. It didn't shut down. You know what I'm saying? Nobody told you to stay home and stay in.
The Spanish flu happened, and they still could go out and do stuff. The whole world wasn't shut down.
The whole world shut down. And when I saw that, I said, this is either two, you either looking at one scenario or one huge dichotomy. You either looking at the fact that man has corrupted this world so much that they never get settled and they always got to mess up something. Or God is saying, you know what? I'm finna start early. Because I promise you, I thought 30 years from now. You know what I'm saying? I thought 30 years from now, if God said the same, I was walking on a walker cane, and then I would be beginning to see this kind of stuff. I never would have thought that I would see the world shut down. That right there, it automatically made this for me. Bloop. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Pay attention. You know what I'm saying? And so when you start seeing all of these folks that, I'm a child of God. They can't tell me what to do. What if God is allowing man to dictate? It's getting to the point to where you tangibly are seeing, dictations. Go in the house. Don't come out of the house. You know what I'm saying? I thought I would never see that in America.
God's saying, if you don't want to listen to me, all right, fine. I'll let you listen to these people.
I will give you.
That's your God.
I will give you a Pharaoh to where you would have to obey.
You better say that again.
I will give you a Pharaoh to where you would have to obey. And that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. You got people that are mega wealthy. They have no other time on their hand except to think about a bunch of stuff out of the box. It is always never just for them. It's always for someone that they ain't never met before in their life. And that someone is me and you. They always got an agenda. You know what I'm saying? But all of this is God allowed.
And I also believe that the people who I was told, I'm not going to say that because there are people who watch that are not of God and they want to hear the future. So I'm not going to say that. But I will say there are people who are going to be coming out of the woodworks, replacing the people that you guys were looking up to. But the difference is the people that were in those positions of power were egotistical. This new group are going to tell you, don't look at me, look to truth.
On the regular basis. They're going to say it on a regular basis because they understand the placement in which they are in right now, this specific time frame of the world and everything that is going on. It will set a level of respect in those leaders to where they like, I'm going to learn from the ones that was before me. I'm not going to make the same mistake. And I'm going to always acknowledge who is the one and truth and righteous. Only one that's righteous. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have someone that's going to always, because guess what? I told somebody this the other day, and we were just talking. I said, I wonder in the next year, how many people are going to go to their church extremely vengeful because they feel like you lied to me.
There's a movie. I don't know if you remember this movie. It was a movie called A Thief in the Night. It came out when I was a kid. It's about this preacher who did just that. And at the end of the film, he went crazy. He starts preaching in this abandoned church, the same church that used to be packed. It was a mega church of that day, right? That same church that used to be packed, it was now empty, no lights on, and he had went crazy. And he's in the pulpit preaching the truth, and nobody would listen. Nobody would listen because nobody was in the room. Nobody was in the church. It was empty, dark. The doors had been posted up. The windows had been boarded up, and he's in there preaching and saying the stuff he should have been saying when his congregation was packed. So it's already happening. It's gonna be more so. I guess my point is that particular scene in the movie was powerful. I remember it as a kid. It was like, whoa, that's scary, you know. But that's happening now. If you think about it, and no disrespect to TD Jakes, but it's interesting whenever I watch his show. This has nothing to do with him being bad or good. This has everything to do with when I watch the show now, every so often I catch it, and it's just this big empty church, and he's preaching to the cameras, you know, obviously, because of the online, but the building is empty. And it's like such a powerful.
No, it's a powerful time.
That's a powerful picture of visual. You know what I mean?
It's a powerful time in which we're living in, because you looking at a situation to where economically we could go into a great recession leading to a great depression.
It already has. What people don't know is that the money and the food, has already been rationed out for the next few months, right? But what people don't know is production has stopped for the last 3 or 4 months. What's going to happen a year from now?
So you talking about food is getting ready.
It's going to hit everybody food wise. It's coming. Mark my word, guys. It's coming. I'll give it a few months. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be to next week. But the food thing is coming. It has to. There are certain countries right now that are already out of flour. They're not even producing it, and they can't do whatever they do to process it to make it. That's happening today.
Wow.
Today. So it's only a matter
So that's
of time.
so when you go to the store and you don't see any flour on the shelves, any rice on the shelves, basically you're saying is that is just a for conclusion of what will be going on. Say by the end of the year.
I'd say by the end of the year, I'd give it, to be fair, 18 months. Yeah. To be fair.
I told somebody, I said, they don't even, if they pull out the green light and they said, everything is fine, right? I said, they really don't know that this will affect us for the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even 15, 20 years.
It's going to be longer than that. I think a lifetime. Some people will have to live a whole life, and then the next generation will still be feeling the effects of this moment. If you think about it, the American boom that happened from the 1920s, the Roaring 20s, came from the pandemic. So the Roaring 20s was all these people wanting to spend money, go hang out, have fun. But it took them still, even through the Roaring 20s, it still took them another 20, 30 years to get to 1950-ish, where the housing market started to come back and people were making money. It was still a good 20, 30 years before it was like the end thing to have a house and to have a 30-year mortgage and things are better. And it was like that from, I say, the 50s through maybe the late 80s. And then in the 80s, it started changing again.
And I'm sad when it comes to one of my favorite pastimes. My favorite pastime is to go to a movie theater, sit down in a dark room, and actually watch a great movie. Eat some popcorn, greasy popcorn. I actually eat movie food. I won't go to a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? I won't go to a restaurant. I won't get anything before I go there. If I'm going to cheat as far as food is that particular day, it's going to be that fake movie food.
Really?
I love movies so much.
Wow.
I actually go to the movie theater and I buy a large bucket of popcorn and I'll say, see y'all later on. I'll actually go get some popcorn and come home.
Are you serious right now?
No, I'm dead serious.
You know, you can buy that same popcorn at Walmart for like $2.
I know it.
Like but an 8-pack for $2.
But check this out. But it's the atmosphere. It's the ambiance.
I totally get it.
You dig what I'm saying?
I totally get it. Because to me, there's not a hot dog better than a movie hot dog.
Come on, exactly. So my thing is, for me to not be able to do that, I told someone, our lives will never be the same again. Some of these industries will not bounce back. I do not foresee the music industry being what it was 5 years ago. I do not see the movie industry being what it was 2 years ago. I do not see a lot of these industries bouncing back. And I also say, God in his infinite wisdom, when he wants to get our attention, he sure know how to get our attention. Well, you got to go from A to M or something like that to go to a park. If your last name starts with A to M, you can go these particular days. And then M to, you know what I'm saying, to Z, you can go these particular days.
Kind of like they did in the energy crisis in the late 70s, I heard, with the gas.
Dude, that's not good, man. That's not good. That's not good for me to look at Dow Jones and it says that barrels of oil is 0.19%. The first time in the history of our modern era. 0% per gallon. That's not good.
That means it's like getting water.
That's like getting water. That's like
the cost of water.
And that's like going back to Jimmy Carter days. You know what I'm saying? But the reversal effect, because what you see is gouging. We actually should be paying 83 cents for a gallon of gas right now. 83 cents in lower right now, but they're gouging it up to 120, 130, $2. Where you at? $2.20. Where
Right.
you at?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not good, Doc. That means our economy is sinking, and it's sinking fast. And it's almost like a plug in a shower tub. Once you pull that plug out, it's no getting that water back.
And that's all the stimulus money really is. It's not money, it's a plug. Because a majority of the people that got those checks are not really getting cash. They're getting wire transfers that are basically loans.
Come on, Texas. Come on, Texas.
It's true. You're not getting cash.
Come on, Texas. You are telling the God honest truth. I was telling somebody the other day. I said, listen, I do a lot of talking, as you see. I said, listen, don't be surprised come next year. When you go to file your taxes, the very money that you finna get, because you're not only just gonna get that $1,200, you're finna get some more money from the federal government. First of all, the greenbacks ain't worth the paper that is written on.
It says it on the greenback. It says this is just a note that says this is an IOU, brother. This ain't no real.
He said this is a note.
This is a note. This is basically a note you give to the teacher.
It ain't worth.
The dog ate my homework, signed by mother.
It ain't worth the paper that is written on. And guess what? We as a people, if we don't start understanding economics, I had to learn it the hard way. If you don't start learning economics, we are going to look at a situation to where there will be anarchy and there will be martial law on the earth. Because we're going to have to border. We're going to have to start borrowing. Hey, I'll give you this for this.
Well, that's the new economy. The new economy is going to be bartering system.
That's right.
I need a house built. Can I buy some groceries? you grow me a bushel of corn for the next 6 months. Then you get
That's
your
right.
house.
That's right. NBC put out a show some years back that I really wish that they wouldn't have just erased it off the face of the earth. But it was basically talking about how the economy just fell apart based upon sales basically destroying its own entity, its own infrastructure, right? And how this particular region of America was against this particular region, and this particular region was the ally to this particular region. You know what I'm saying? I love watching that kind of stuff, science fiction stuff, and stuff that's talking about end times and calamities and stuff like that. I love watching that kind of stuff because I like to marry it with what I see is truth in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And I tell you, we're getting close. We're getting close. You remember your grandmama used to say, it won't be long, Jesus is coming soon.
Well, that now is really for real. Really for real.
It's getting real, bro.
It's going to be one or the other. It's either going to be that or it's going to be a huge separation between good and evil. So it's one or the other. It's either going to be everybody's going to kind of suffer a little bit, or it's going to be a huge separation where the good is getting ready to be at the forefront and then the evil is getting ready to start suffering a lot, you know. So we'll see how it plays out. I know you got to go. Last question. Do you think, got to end it with something fun because we had such a great 2 hours. Do you think that Kirk Franklin and the family will do a reunion?
I think so.
Yes.
I think so. I think the reason why I think so is because the time frame in which we're living. Once they, however, whether it be 5 months from now, 2 months from now, 10 months from now, I believe because of the time frame in which we're living. Uh-oh. Who was that?
Somebody's at the door.
Somebody's at the door.
Must be Jesus. Somebody really
And-
thinking the doorbell
Boy,
too.
they really doing that.
Doing the most.
They doing the most, dog. But no, the time frame is. Could you guys stop that? Because the time frame in which we're living in, yes, I feel like we're gonna do a record.
But there you have it, guys. Dalon Collins.
I gotta go. Doc,
We gotta go. We gotta go.
Everything just fell apart. Doc.
Everything just fell apart. So we will see you guys in the near
Take care
future.
now.
Thank you for doing it, brother.
Oh man, I'm glad, man. Appreciate you.
So many things I could say that I hold deep inside my heart's full of praise. Just want to let you know how much I love you so. In the dark with all my fears, you hold me in your arms and dry out all my tears. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. You're the hope that lives in me. Oh, you gave me life, life without asking, life, joy everlasting, unmerited favor, given by God above. Life didn't deserve it. Life, you thought me worth it. Unmerited favor, given by God above. Oh yeah. From the warmth of the rising sun, through my ups and my downs, you're always around. You're my strength and my strong tower. I will always trust in you, yes. Peace without failing. And when the world's torn apart, you keep safe my heart. No words will do. I'm nothing without you. Ooh, when I open my eyes, when I open my eyes, all around me, yeah. Just one look in the clouds, and I feel your presence near. I feel your presence near. You're everything I need, oh, yeah. Oh, my hopes and my dreams, I can never pay for the gift you gave. Said you give it me life. You did it.
Thank you for watching this episode with Dalon Collins. If you want to get in touch with him, his information is below, as well as our information, CJCTV, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to get in touch with me directly, you can reach me at facebook.com/Carl Jackson Exclusive. And I keep saying slash as if people even still use that term, slash. I don't think they do. Carl Jackson Exclusive, Facebook. All right, Carl Jackson Exclusive, Facebook. Is that a better way to say it? Okay. Instagram, CJCTV, and Facebook is CJCTV. Dalon Collins, his information is right here. We love you guys. Keep in touch with us. Thank you for watching on channel 24.7 in Los Angeles, and thank you for watching us on channel 90. And thank you for listening on Spotify and all other platforms that carry podcasts. We really appreciate you keeping in touch with us and listening to us. We do all this for you. Thank you. Until next time, you be blessed.
I built this church.
You didn't build this church, God built the church.
People of the world today are fading. All of us have our ups and downs. You better think about it or you won't